Good morning, everyone. I welcome you to this part of the session of the talk of the teaching course for young neurologists across the world. Welcome to the World Congress of Neurology. My name is Rufus Akinyemi, and I represent Africa on the International Working Group of Young Neurologists and Trainees. And I'll be speaking to us for the next couple of minutes about the lessons from my training experience between Nigeria and the UK, from the bedside to the bench. These are my disclosures, and this is the outline of my talk. I'm going to set the stage, talk a little about Africa, and then discuss briefly medicine and neurology training in Nigeria, then mention a little bit about the Ibro neuroscience training courses in Africa, how they've impacted me, and of course my research training experience at Newcastle University in the UK, and the lessons, the outcomes and the lessons that I have derived from this training experience from the bedside to the bench and back, and then I will conclude. As we all know that Africa, a continent of about 54 nations, and of about 1 billion people, is a continent that is bedeviled with a growing prevalence of neurological disorders. It's commonly said that Africa today faces a double burden of disease, even though there seems to be a transition from predominantly communicable to predominantly non-communicable disorders. I know thanks to the growing aging populations and the epidemiology transition across the continent. So today, if you go to a neurology clinic in Africa, you're not likely to see cases of epilepsies, cerebrovascular disorders, including stroke and vascular cognitive disorders, neuro aids, headaches, peripheral neuropathies. These are common diseases that you see across the continent of Africa. Nonetheless, despite the great burden of neuro disorders in Africa, there is very low neurologic manpower. According to the WHO Neurology Atlas of 2004, in Africa, you only have about 3 neurologists for a population of 100,000, compared to 484 per 100,000 in Europe, meaning that for every neurologist in Africa, there are about 150 in Europe. And these few neurologists are tasked with the challenge of looking after the 1 billion people in Africa. And very few countries have more than 50 neurologists, all over the country. And of course, there are also few training centers across the continents. That is the picture in Africa. So it was in the background of this that I decided to train and become a neurologist. However, my passion for the brain started when I was a child. As a little boy, growing up in a remote village in Africa, I used to love sitting outside the home in the evening and admiring the constellation of the stars. And of course, I later on went to college and did one of the sciences, trained in medicine in university, and then picked up neurology as a passionate area of interest. And generally in Nigeria, after your medical education, you do the mandatory 1-year internship, and following that, you also undertake a 1-year national service. And after that, you write your exams, and then you go for residency training. Training in Nigeria is divided broadly into 2 parts. The first half of about 2 to 3 years, junior residency, and the latter 3 to 4 years, senior residency. So during your junior residency, you go through trainings in all the fields of general medicine. And then after that, you write membership exam and then specialize in a specialty of choice. And for me, that was neurology. And my training in neurology took me about 3 years to complete, and I am privileged to have trained in the leading training center in Nigeria in neurology. This is the University College Hospital in Ibadan, the first teaching hospital in Nigeria, and I must say the leading center of neurosciences in the country. And that was where I was trained in the tutelage of great teachers and mentors. What are the highlights of my training experience? And I'm sure this experience will also be common to trainees in other developing countries. Number one, it's because of the prevailing circumstances that you find in such environment. Political upheavals, industrial unrest, economic challenges. It's critical that one goes into such a training with a very clear purpose, with a clear goal, with a purposeful pursuit of purpose, so that you can accomplish the goal at the end of the day. It's also very important, and I was privileged to have great mentors and teachers who brought me up in neurology at Ibadan in Nigeria. And of course, because of the low manpower, which is prevalent in Africa, the workload was heavy. But this was a blessing in disguise, because the heavy workload translated to acquisition of great clinical acumen. Because the more patient you see, the better you are. Even though we had access to moderate infrastructure in terms of neurophysiology, electroencephalography, CT scan and MRI, but they were expensive, and patient had out of pocket. Patient had to pay for them out of pocket. And because of this, there was a limit to how much you could use technology to investigate the patient. So you had to depend so much on your clinical acumen in making accurate diagnosis that would help you to make informed judgment of what you're dealing with. And also because of this, there was a need to prioritize the practice, both from the economic and of course from the professional point of view. There's a need to triage patients and ensure that every patient gets the very best of all the resources that are available in terms of manpower and other resources. So this is the context of the training that I had in Nigeria as a young neurologist. But apart from this, I also had the privilege, the great opportunity to participate in neuroscience courses across the continent, from South Africa to Mali, to Kenya, to Congo Republic. I had the privilege to meet great teachers, great mentors, and great minds through the neuroscience was organized by the International Brain Research Organization. These schools did a lot of exposed us to cutting-edge neuroscience and expose our minds, expanded our minds, made us to think big and to think beyond the limits of the environment within which we were born and within which we practice. And following my exposure with my training experiences of hybrid, I was privileged to win the prestigious Hybrid Research Fellowship in 2010. This fellowship took me to Newcastle, to the laboratory of Professor Raj Kalaria, a great neuroscientist and a great mentor, who taught me the rudiments of wet neuroscience research, bedside bench research in clinical neurosciences. And my time with him was focused on a project that had two parts. The first part was to study the mechanisms, to join the group to study the mechanisms that underlie post-stroke cognitive impairment using post-mortem breast tissue that had been accrued from the longitudinally followed up subjects who were followed up from death to autopsy. And on the other hand, to initiate, to pioneer a similar project looking at stroke survivors in Nigeria and determine the prevalence and the pattern of predictors of cognitive problem, cognitive dysfunction in the Nigerian cohort. my time in Newcastle, I spent much of my time in how the Universal Laboratory that is domiciled within the complex of the Aging Research Laboratories. And I had great time with great people, great minds, learning about the brain, learning about molecular mechanisms of neurological disorders, and of course with stroke and dementia as my primary focus. And that slide shows Rufus working on the hippocampus for several weeks, several months, navigating the hippocampus for pathologies that relate to stroke and dementia. Our first project in Newcastle was focused on trying to investigate how much of Alzheimer's pathology do patients with stroke acquire, how much does Alzheimer's pathology contribute to memory problems in stroke survivors. And we did a work that was based on this hypothesis that with cerebral hypoperfusion, reduced perfusion to the brain will lead to increased amyloid generation. And we subsequently proved and found that truly more amyloid is generated in the brains of people that have had a stroke, but not as much as you have in those who have Alzheimer's disease, but of course much higher than what you have in control subjects. So the hypothesis was proved, but we also discovered that amyloid was not primarily responsible for the dementing process in these subjects. There were other factors which we subsequently investigated: white matter pathology, synaptic pathology, and these are other areas that we went into. But my time in Newcastle was not only spent at the bench. I also took time off to also have experience in the stroke unit at the Royal Victorian Infirmary, during which I also interacted with great minds, great clinicians, and so this experience of going from the bedside to the bench enabled me to really get to the roots, the roots of diseases, of neurological disorders, especially stroke, to understand the science of stroke, the mechanisms, and how you use your understanding of mechanistic principles to develop and innovate, develop new treatments, and see how to make life better, to make impact on life of people that have neurological disorders. So what have been the outcomes and the lessons of this experience across 2 continents, across 2 cultures, and from the bedside to the bench and back? I would say that this experience, for me, has changed my perspective. I have a global perspective of neurology and neuroscience as a field. I think now not just about symptoms and signs, but I think when I see a patient, I think holistically about the patient. From the genes to the cell to the tissue, I begin to ask what is really wrong with this patient. So it enables me to think holistically and to think about fundamental principles of what goes wrong in patients and how best can you address this. And this has also led me to begin to pursue a physician scientist career pathway. I can call myself a neurophysician scientist today. How to new ways to solve old problems and solving new problems that also arise. And also, I have a rich African and global network of mentors, colleagues, friends, and collaborators that they've built. And of course, I'm also passionate about the African neuroscience and answers. Africa, we need a change. We need to think anew. We need to think in a new way. We need to inject fresh blood into neuroscience in Africa and change the face of neuroscience in Africa. And the experience has also granted me the opportunity to be involved with some leadership initiatives, for instance, starting on the platform of the International Group for Young Neurologists and Trainees. And of course, innovation in clinical practice, finding new ways, innovative problems that you face in practice. And of course, I've been empowered and encouraged to do research and also to publish, to advance knowledge, to contribute to advancing knowledge in neurosciences and neurology specifically. And because of the impact that my great teachers and mentors have made on me, I'm also poised to impact others, to teach and to mentor others. And this I began to do in my little way, in my in my sphere of influence, locally and across the continent. And I have a great friend of the working group, first in the Pinjo. We do my work together. And together we're developing initiatives to promote and network among young neurologists on the continent of Africa. Currently we're working on a Young African Neurology initiative, and we trust that this initiative will become a reality and will really go a long way to encourage young neurologists across the continent. And of course, other great friends from Asia, from Europe, our leader, Walter, who is the great leader of the International Working Group of Young Neurologists and Walter Struha, and other great friends on the work group. These are great friends that I see as leaders of neurology in the future. I will say that, in summary, my experience training across two continents and two cultures, from the bed to the bedside, fulfills the tenet of the statement made by James Whitworth in his 2008 article in The Lancet, that health research is vital, has a key role to play in the development of low-income and middle-income countries. And research is not a luxury, it's expensive, but it is very important to develop new interventions and to improve existing ones. And the training experience, research training experience has enabled me today to work with my leaders and colleagues to run this project in Nigeria, looking at memory problems after stroke. It's an ongoing study, and we hope that generates publications that will make impact from this work. We also begin to collaborate with others, with other colleagues from across the Atlantic, to develop these projects to look at secondary prevention of stroke. And we call it the TRIBES projects. We have a great colleague in the US, most of the academics leading this study. A great colleague in Nigeria is we're working together with Bruce to get these projects undertaken and develop interventions that can enhance the secondary control of vascular risk factors using hypertension as a model in the continent of Africa. We're also beginning to develop proposals and projects to look at genomics of stroke and other medical conditions on the continent. And we are, in a little way, we are spreading the message to conquer neurophobia and build the next generation. We talk to young students in schools, in churches, to encourage them to take up careers in neurosciences. These are some of the things we do. And I've also been privileged to serve as faculty of the teaching course organized by the World Federation of Neurology, the most recent of which was held in Dakar, Senegal, July 2013. These have been the outcomes, the lessons from my training experience across two continents, two cultures, two countries, from the bench to the bedside. In summary, I'd like to say that, acquiring this sort of training experience is highly beneficial. The expertise of mind changes your perspective and helps you to have a holistic, complete view of what neuroscience is all about. However, I must say that it's critical that such trainings should go back home to their home countries so that they can impact what they've learned to make a change, to effect a change, to make a difference for their countries of origin. And I must say that I believe that Africa truly needs highly trained neurofiscal scientists to drive and sustain neuroscientific growth and service delivery for today and for the future. I'm looking to acknowledge people who have been of great support in this journey, my mentors in Nigeria, in the UK, my collaborators, my friends, my family. These have all played great roles in enhancing my training experience, not only in Nigeria, but across in the UK. I thank you for your attention.